Welcome to Living Your Life podcast, the podcast that amplifies stories of resilience and courage in the face of adversity. In today's episode, we have a privilege of introducing you to a remarkable individual, Atreyu Stuart, who is at the young age of 22, has become an inspiring symbol of strength while living with sickle cell disease. Today, we'll delve into his journey, shedding light on the challenges he's faced, the triumphs he's achieved, and the individual lessons he's learned along the way. Join us as we explore the unwavering determination of this extraordinary person, offering insights of hope and renewed perspective on what it truly means to overcome obstacles and live life to the fullest. Welcome to Living Your Life. Please welcome my man, Mr. Atreyu Stewart. How you doing, young man?
I'm doing well.
How
Welcome,
you
brother.
doing?
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, welcome, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I see you with the high top fade. I see I see what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? You remember them days, Dr. A
You
Bear?
look,
You remember that?
he's kid and play. Cause he
Yeah,
don't
he
play.
doing both of them
Cause,
right
cause,
now,
'cause he
man.
don't play. He don't play.
Yeah, man. Well, Trey, man, welcome to the show. Just live your life, man. 22 years old,
Yes.
sickle cell disease. You know, um, I have sickle cell disease. Dr. Abear's been an expert for a very long time on sickle cell disease. What is it like growing up for you, man, when you were a kid with sickle cell disease? What was it like growing up for you with this?
Um, for me, my sickle cell story started before I can even actually remember it. I was born on television. Um,
Wow.
You were born
yeah,
on television.
You was born
yes.
on
It
TV?
What does
was.
that mean?
It was the show was called. I'm blanking, but it was a show about following families, um, parents specifically, and their journey to childhood or to childbirth. Um, so by that point, my parents didn't even know that I had sickle cell. But I was born on television, and after the recording of the show, the doctors came to my parents and they were like, "Your son has sickle cell disease." And at the time, they didn't even know what that meant or what the disease was. Um, but because of it, I know I spent more time in the hospital as a baby, um, just to make sure that everything was okay. And then it was mostly normal for me um, until I was about 2 or 3, and that was when I had my first severe case of acute chest, which hospitalized me for quite a long time. Um, and it was after that moment that my parents decided that they would try and learn everything that there is to know about this disease so that they would never be caught off guard by anything like that again. And it was important to them to bestow all the knowledge that they learned upon me so that I could be prepared as well.
Well, Atreyu, acute chest syndrome for the folks that are listening that are not sickle cell warriors. It's a disease where you get an infiltrate or like a pneumonia along with your sickle cell crisis, and it can actually be lethal. You get hypoxia, meaning decreased oxygen, and when you have fever with that infiltrate, it's really something. There are a lot of medicines out there now that really try to treat it and prevent it, but they only have a couple that are really doing, a decent job at that.
Yeah, man. Atreyu, yeah, I was just like you, man, a young man wrestling with this disease and trying to understand what this really is. For like growing up and you going to high school, what was your experience like having sickle cell with your friends and trying to figure out how to make your way through life with this disease? How did you do that, Atreyu?
It was always interesting because I was always the kid with a water bottle no matter where I went. Um, I would always have a huge mug of water with me just to make sure that I always was hydrated. Um, in high school, for me, because that was a period of pretty high stress pretty frequently, I know I had a lot of crises pretty back to back. That was actually the period of my life with the most crises, if I remember correctly. That was actually the period of my life when I had an impacted bone crisis, which was definitely the worst crisis I've ever had, and I don't ever want to.
No, I've been down that road. See, that's something I had to deal with. I had a lot of sickle cell crisis in high school as well. That the thing about that is, high school pressure. It's a lot of pressure and
Exactly.
stress.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of my sickle cell crisis started, was just dealing with stress, and then making sure that I stayed hydrated. But I always didn't do that because I played football and I played basketball, I ran track. But I remember going back to back. Did you ever have to go back to back to the hospital? You'll get out, and then a couple of days later you'll go right back in.
Thankfully, no, I've never had an experience like that.
Oh man, that's what I was dealing with, and so like somebody like you that's young, that age. I mean, think about it now. How many crises do you have a year now?
Thankfully, now it has become pretty infrequent. I have been lucky enough to be very receptive to the medicines that have been developed for sickle cell
Hmm.
disease, especially Endari.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
After I started that, it's been a while since my last crisis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the interesting part about the Endari story is that, I mean, there's a huge decrease in acute chest syndrome with Endari, and that's something that, when you start talking about statistics, the acute chest syndrome is what will take you out. It'll make it so that, you have really bad outcomes. And so so you are doing well in Endari, that's a really, really good thing, because the side effect profile is so low. But let me ask a question. Do you when you start talking about your stress in high school, a lot of sickle cell crises are precipitated by stress. If you could give like a your opinion, or your feeling on what should a high school student do to decrease the stress, a high schooler right now who has sickle cell disease, SS or SC, what would you want them to do? What kind of mindset do they need to have to get through that without having a lot of crisis, a lot of stress?
I would say that the best thing to do would be to find what is causing that stress. I know for me, a lot of my stress came from trying to live up to the expectations of my parents. So if I had to go back and do it again, I think the best thing for me would have been to talk to my parents. Because like I know that they always will accept the best of me. They're never going to be disappointed with what I put out as long as I tried my best. But back then, for me, my best wasn't good enough for myself. So I was putting a lot of extra stress on myself. When if I had just talked to my parents, I believe that was unnecessary stress.
And see, there we go right then again, Dr. Aber, back into that mental health, having to be someone, an outlet to talk to about this. That's very, very hard to talk about your ailment to people who may not ever understand what that feeling is. What does that feel like? And just the fact that you could even come to terms with, I should talk more. I should have said something more. I should have just sat my parents down and explained to them, this is what I'm going through. And
Exactly.
that Dr. Abraham, what are ways that we could do mental health? Like, what is the best way we can manage this mental health? Because that's a serious issue, I believe, for all of us.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing you got to recognize is that that's why we're doing this show, living your life. You have to really work on finding the best part of what you are and recognizing that that is what you have to manifest. Meaning, it's called mindfulness, right? And everybody out there, whether you have sickle cell or not, mindfulness. What happened in the past is over. Okay, what's going to happen in the future, you can't control. And the part of the future that you can control, which is the present, control it if you can, and live in that moment. And then that will just make it better for you. But living your life is important because I'm looking at Atreyu and I can see that he's a healthy person, right? Meaning physically healthy, right? And so eating well, you can't just fill your body with a bunch of either drugs that are illegal. You can't but drinking a bunch of alcohol. You can't be out there wilding out and not getting enough sleep, especially as a young person, because that's what everybody wants to do. You saw the BET Awards the other night in front of Bobby Jones. In front of Bobby Jones? You see what that lady was saying?
Yeah, they did that in front of Bobby John.
Go, go. So the point is, we got to start living our lives better, and then you will decrease your stress. And I'm not advocating violence, but if somebody's in your life and they causing you stress, they got to go, Kier. Now I don't know how you're gonna do it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
You gotta
You know, Atreyu, like for me, man, like you know, and it only intensified when I got to college because you know the classes picked up. I'm engineering major. You stay on a pressured schedule, syllabus, you know, math, your courses is all high stress classes. And so my friends had to find out about my sickle cell by having my first crisis in college at 18.
Mm.
And I know you know what this is like. You know, Trey, have you seen how your friends responded to you in college? And what was that experience like for you?
No, I absolutely agree. College was definitely one of the biggest times of stress in my life, especially given that I was going during the height of the pandemic. Um, Thankfully, it didn't result in too many crises. I know I had one, but ultimately, I decided that it was just better for my health if I stopped going. And in the future, I do believe that I will go back to college, but just for the time being, doing classes online during the pandemic, I just decided that was not for me.
Yeah. Let me ask a quick question now, and this is a personal one, so bear with me here. Do Have you ever been embarrassed that you had sickle cell? Like just like your friends find out you're like embarrassed, or have you evolved to a point where you're okay with that? Or are you still in that paradigm?
I wouldn't say I was ever embarrassed by having the disease, but I would say that I started to notice that that was all I was becoming to some people. Um, my friends, and I know they didn't mean this in a hurtful way, but when introducing me, they would be like, "This is Atreyu. He has sickle cell disease." Yeah, and I know they don't mean that in a hurtful way, but as I got older, I kind of wanted to move away from that. I wanted to become more than just someone who has sickle cell disease.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with that. I got introduced like that. Sometimes I just introduce myself first. Hey, hey, I'm Kier Spates. I have sickle cell because I'll own it. You know, this is something that we can talk about. We don't have to be shamed or try to move away from it. Hey, I have sickle cell disease. Now, certain things I ain't doing. First of all, I ain't taking stress. Okay, that's you can make that announcement. Can't nobody stop that or trade you. Second thing I'm doing, if you see me fall, call 911. Something, don't look at me. Get me the help. You know, and that is something that I felt like a lot of young people in our community, in the 6 other community, have a hard time, Dr. Hebert and Treyu, talking about what it is they have. You know, but the only way we're gonna help other people is we have to have these conversations, like living your life is doing, to have the people understand that we're educating you. You know, don't understand why I can't come out to Colorado and understand why I can't hang out in Denver.
What about this? You better not get in no swimming pool.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. You know, like I love to go. I love to go swim. I really would. I just won't take the chance. You know, I just won't do it because it could trigger a crisis. And I know how are you with that? Is that one of your triggers as well? Trey, a pool
Absolutely.
swimming,
Yes.
swimming. Do you remember the first time you went swimming and actually had a crisis?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Didn't it scare you?
Yes.
Oh, now I ain't thinking about pools no more, Dr. Bear. Bathing is scary
Oh yeah, I get it.
because you don't know.
Yeah,
Well, you just don't know.
yeah.
But see, now I can see that Atreyu, you are doing way better than that, man. I know, like right now, your care. How's your care going now? What are you doing right now for your care for your sickle cell disease? Are you seeing a hematologist or
Yes,
oncologist? Are you seeing
yes.
somebody? Okay.
I've been seeing a hematologist and an oncologist for all of my life. I just transitioned out of childcare to adult
Okay.
care.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And how was that? Because that's
Yeah.
hard. Sometimes
That's hard.
that's hard.
I was thankful enough. The hospital I was with, they helped guide me through the entire process. I cannot thank them enough for that. I don't know where I would be without them. Um, the transition process has been good. There's definitely new things that we're getting used to. Working with my new team, building up that relationship.
Hmm.
But I would say overall, the transition process went well.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, you know, and Dr. Abraham, why? What is the trigger for that? What is happening here when we're 6-0? Because I don't see other people with issues having this problem transitioning into adult care. Why is this? What is missing here? Is this something that's government related? Is this something that's just happening to us?
There are a couple of things, right? So as you get older, um, people tend to want to go into the closet with their sickle cell because they do get embarrassed because they have to, you got to tell people, you got to tell your employer, and because you're going to be missing some days at work. So people don't even want to be linked to another clinician because they just don't want to be known. That's the first thing. I mean, we know 70% of people, adults with sickle cell, we don't even know where they are. I don't know how they live it. They're living, not living their life, that's for sure. The second thing is that, hematologists and oncologists are basically they train the same, right? So when you go through residency, when you finish your internal medicine or your pediatrics, then you go to a fellowship called hem-onc. So you do both. So what happens is that, there are a lot of new cures, quote unquote, and new modalities and new treatments for cancer, but not a lot for sickle cell. So when a person transitions to the hem-onc doctor, the onc is what that doctor is really all about. It ain't really with the heme because the onc, which is also blood cancers, not just solid tumor cancers, the blood onc is where the money is, it's where the research is, and everybody follows the dollar. So and then doctors like to come in on big white horses and save the day. You got a patient coming in that's like 18, 19, 20 years old, and you ain't got nothing for them. And so it kind of makes you feel bad as a doctor, like, damn, we like Chris Rock said, doctors don't cure nothing. All we do is figure out a way to live with it, right? So the point is, a lot of doctors don't want to accept the patient that has sickle cell. And furthermore, if you're in a big city, there will be a sickle cell center of some sort. But if you're not in a big city where there's a big university, you ain't gonna have that. So you might go to a hematologist oncologist that never took care of sickle cell patients at all. You
Yeah.
might be better off.
That was
Not
actually one
Yeah.
of the
Right.
challenges I faced. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah,
No.
that
No.
no,
was
go
one of the
ahead, go ahead.
challenges
Go
I
ahead.
faced when transitioning. I had talked to my doctor about moving possibly out of the state. I'm currently in California. I had talked to my doctor about moving out of the state, and that was one of the things they warned me about. They said that I could by all means, but I had to be very careful about where I went, because if I had chosen someplace remote, there just wouldn't be any, there would be no way for me to receive care.
Yeah,
Ah.
and that sounds
Man.
like we live in Siberia.
Yeah.
It sounds like we
It,
like we
it
living in
sounds so much
Tibet.
foreign.
Yeah, no, we live in America, and they're still talking about there are places you shouldn't live because of an illness that you have. That don't even sound right. That doesn't even sound right.
No, it doesn't. And like like what support groups do you have? Like I understand you're friends with a good friend of mine, Kiki Shepherd. I think you said she has the KISS Foundation, Dr. Airbear, that we've been trying to work with. What has your experience been like with the KISS Foundation with Kiki Shepherd? How dedicated is she?
She is one of the most dedicated people I know. I have had nothing but positive experiences with KISS Foundation, and I don't know where I would be without them. I know that on several occasions where I've been hospitalized, she personally has come to visit me, and ensure that my family and I we're okay while going through it. And I know that every year she has a backpack drive where she provides backpacks for sickle cell warriors. And in those backpacks contain everything that you could need for a hospitalization, um, being blankets and toiletries. And I know that we have used those backpacks on several occasions, and they have been
Yeah.
lifesavers.
Oh,
She's proud of them backpacks because they work,
she
man.
told.
She is
They
very
She
proud
told
of
us
them.
about the. She came back on the show to tell us about them backpacks.
She sure did. She sure did.
She came back on the show to tell us about them backpacks.
We had
That's how
signed
serious
off.
about the backpack.
We signed off, and she was like, "No, no, 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 no. I got to
No,
come
no.
back."
I gotta tell you about these backpacks. So that is one of the things, man. Did you even how did you even come across the KISS Foundation? How did you find this foundation?
I think that the KISS Foundation found me, actually, because I was, for a short period of time, the poster child for sickle cell disease at my hospital.
Really?
And so I think because of that, Kiki and the KISS Foundation came to me. And I know that I went to several sickle cell fundraisers. The annual bowling fundraiser being
And
a
the
big
golf
one.
tournament. And the golf
And the
tournament.
golf
too.
tournament,
Yeah.
yes, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What man? If you could, Atreyu, this is your time. I don't like my guests not to leave without laying down and worry about how they feel about their experience and giving the space. But what would you say to other warriors that are out here right now, currently fighting this battle? And what have you done to stay on track to keep your fight going?
I would tell them that advocating is the most powerful thing they can do for themselves. It was a lesson that I've had to learn, and it was a hard lesson to learn. But especially as an adult, if you are an adult with a sickle cell warrior, an adult sickle cell warrior, advocating for yourself is the most important thing you can ever do. When I was 19 or so, that was around the first time as an adult I had to be hospitalized for a crisis. And I told the doctors certain things about myself and how my body worked and how I needed stuff to be done, and they didn't listen. And
They didn't listen.
that was hard.
Isn't that crazy? How am I gonna tell you about me and you don't listen? Bro, that don't make no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I just, brother, we are so glad you came on to share this story with us, man. We appreciate you. Atreyu, look, man, I'm 44 years old. I'm still in this journey, man. I'm gonna tell you, you're doing it the right way, because it's gonna be a long fight. And Dr. Hebert and I realized that, and that's why we're glad you came on to share your story, so other people will get involved, man. I just need more people to get involved. I don't need this to be like we're not important, or this is not something that we don't, it's not a cause worthy of attention, when it really is. Because there's an Atreyu that has it. There's a Junior that has it. There's a Dr. Aber that cares for it.
Yeah.
So don't tell me it's not a worthy cause.
Yeah.
I can't go along with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't.
Advocate. You said it best.
Advocate. That's it.
Advocate.
Advocate. I call it talk your trash. I'm telling you, man. I tell the doctor in a minute, I'm not taking that.
Yeah.
And I'm asking for this. You can't give me that. That's not enough medication. That's not what I even take.
Exactly.
I advocate for myself. Hey, man. Well, I tell you what, go get the machine. I give it to myself. What they call it? The self-pain medication machine. Go get the machine.
The PCA pump.
The PCA pump. Go get that. I'll use that. Let's sit up here arguing with you about my pain level. And so, man, we have to advocate, Atreyu, man. And that's what you out here doing, man. We're proud of you, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. We appreciate you. We love you, man. And stay in the fight, man.
Of course.
Stay in the fight,
And if
Atreyu.
you
Thank
need
you for
us,
having me.
if you need
Lead
us,
with your high top fade.
That's
Atreyu.
right.
Just lead with that.
if you need us,
lead
holla.
with that, brother. Yeah, we got you, man. We love you, man. We appreciate you, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Atreyu Stuart right here on Living Your Life, man. Thank you so much, brother. Have a good one.
You
Have a
too.
good one.
Thank you.